What
Odd
you're
number of
seeing
cards.
is advanced warfare.
Whoa, he said the thing! He said advanced warfare! Roll the credits. I don't know, I feel, you know, sometimes I get the feeling, I guess, that I need to pad the runtime. But really, it's just, what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk briefly about the shutdown, because it's like, oh, now we're just in like, Putin oligarchy kind of territory. So, cool, great, awesome, love that. And then I want to react to a certain video that I had seen recently. Namely, it was about Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Game that didn't do that well, if I remember right, when it first released or something like that. I mean, it's Call of Duty, so it probably did pretty well. You know, again, I could be like misremembering or whatever. Here, let's enhance these cards. But I remember a lot of people had, like, you know, mixed feelings or whatever, and some people kind of marked it as like, oh yeah, this is kind of the beginning where Call of Duty games started to be futuristic garbage and like didn't quite have the game making quality that earlier Call of Duty games have, even though like every Call of Duty game from a more objective, like, historical analysis perspective is military industrial complex propaganda. And this is also true of Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. But one of the unique things about that game is they got Kevin Spacey, at the time A-lister, you know, before he was disgraced and it was found out that he was a sexual predator and whatnot. It was a big deal, and they wrote his character in a very interesting way that I thought actually merited comment and reaction, specifically because of how much it was reminiscent of, like, you know, a critique of capitalism, or rather a critique of, like, neoliberalism. Can't stop thinking about the millions and millions of people across the supposedly developed world who are struggling to feed their kids this Christmas. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of people. Food insecurity is a bitch. I talked about this in another stream. That's going to be a segment, actually. I do, you know, since some of those segments aren't directly tied to the newsfeed, there's a lot more room for me to edit those at my own pace, which I actually plan to do later today. And basically get those up just so I can have some thoughts about it up on YouTube. Yeah, it fucking sucks. Sucks that that's a thing. Anyways, yeah, I every now and again, you know, you're just browsing through YouTube, kind of watching whatever pops up, and I saw the, like, oh yeah, here are all the cutscenes with Jonathan Irons. So he's the main guy from I might have to discard one of those. No, okay. Greed will be the death of me. And so it is. I'm gonna try to do that. I saw the like I was saying, I saw the video of all those the cutscenes of Jonathan Irons from Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, and I was actually kind of surprised. You know, it was more critical of capitalism than I remembered it being, which is, to me, is genuinely shocking, because we're talking about Call of Duty. We're not talking about Metal Gear. And of course, it doesn't rise, obviously, to the level of Metal Gear. That's an impossible bar to clear, because Metal Gear was made by a literal communist, right? But, you know, Call of Duty isn't the thing you usually expect to have any sort of actual critique. It's supposed to be repping the system that it is a part of. It's not really supposed to be anything, it's not supposed to be anything like super new or interesting or like introspective, right? You know, it's kind of like one of those series that's a little bit like all edge, no point, if that makes sense. You know, Call of Duty tends to operate like that. So now with all of that said, I want to and I'm dead. Okay. I played poker too bad and I died. They killed me for not playing good enough poker. All right, sick. My ability to play this game is going to be diminished by the fact that I'm also trying to do commentary, but that's fine because it's a roguelike and whatever. Let's find Advanced Warfare. Jonathan Irons cutscenes. Here we go. Shout outs to Foxtrot. Hopefully I don't get copyright striked for this. It's just the cutscenes. There's no gameplay. And I wanted to take a look at Kevin Spacey's character actually being surprisingly materialist in his analysis. Let's go React Andy properties. There we go. Is it not going to show? There we go. Okay. This is the one I'm thinking of. Nope. All right. As always, let me know if the audio levels are sort of out of balance, if the video's too loud, if the game's too loud, if or you know, if my voice is too loud, if like you have trouble hearing any one of these. But here we go. We're gonna react to Call of Shooting, Call of Doo-Doo, Advanced Poo Poo, featuring Kevin Spacey as the CEO of a company that is literally the military-industrial complex. And of course, we begin with the moment of this game. Ooh, holographic. I'll take that. There's the man himself.
I'm sorry, Mitchell. Will was one of our best.
What is this?
Look, we take care of our own. If you ever need any...
Excuse me, Private Mitchell. I'm Jonathan Irons. I'm Will's father.
Mr. Irons, I'm sorry for your loss.
I'm sure you are, Sergeant. Private Mitchell, you were Will's best friend. You both paid too high a price for your country.
Oh, this is a funny bit that sort of happens every now and again in the game, where I saw Actman's video on a lot of like Call of Duty games, and you know, whatever you think of him, he does have a talent for writing. He's a pretty funny dude. And I think there are various points when he commented on like, oh yeah, they just keep saying like, yeah, my best friend. Like, damn it! I think I fucking threw. Yeah, I'm gonna actually start a new run. I think I clicked the wrong thing. Here we go. Like every time they mention Will and Mitchell, the two like, Will dies early on, and then Mitchell is the character that you play as. It's like, you were best friends. Wow, that's crazy. How not to establish a main point of the story. Say it over and over again. But anyways, continuing.
It's an unfortunate tragedy, sir.
It was more than unfortunate, Sergeant. It was unnecessary. Son,
Full house.
I want to offer you a second chance.
Mr. Irons, Mitchell's been discharged with his injuries.
I'm aware of his injuries, Sergeant. At Atlas, we have...
Right away, talking shit about the military, man after my own heart.
...that are 20 years beyond anything the military could offer you. Will told me what kind of soldier you were.
3, 4, 5,
You deserve
6.
to
I want to
fight
go
for the
for
military
like
just as far
a
as you are.
if I get a 2 or a 7.
Think about it. Don't let Will's death be in vain. Sergeant.
No excuse for a
There we go.
Best weapon you have is the one between your ears. Use it.
So, the plot of this game, for those who aren't familiar, for those who have not seen how this game, what this game is, it's a Call of Duty game, so, you know, American propaganda, etc., etc. But the plot of this game is that you are a Marine. Your name is Mitchell something. They just refer to you as Mitchell. I don't know what his last name is, if he even has one. You and your best friend, he said the thing, Will Irons, do a mission in, like, South Korea because North Korea is invading. And then he dies and you get your arm cut off. And then now you're at Atlas with the Atlas crew. This is, you guys can't see the cursor, but that's Gideon on the screen there. He's a homie in this game. So that's nice. I'll take this and I'll take this. I like that.
Resetting simulation. Everyone return to your starting positions.
Ooh. I think I know what I want to do here. There we go.
What's his arm, sir? I knew it was too early.
And so he mentioned that, like, oh yeah, Atlas has all this advanced tech, and so they give you a nice prosthetic arm. And this was a test for that. What kind of stuff do I have? 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna try to get an 8. Or I could be a big dumb moron. That's cool too. There we go. Okay. 10. Or I could get a full house. Cool. Wait, what's worth more? Straight or full house? Full house. All right, awesome.
That arm's worth more to me than this entire facility. How's my boy doing?
And yeah, he owns the whole fucking thing. Like, he is the dude. Nice, I nuked the whole level.
He's a work in progress.
Well, keep working. This is a great soldier. It's a sad day indeed when the military has no use for good men like you. Jump in.
Also a characteristic of the Call of Duty games, any component of the story, anything that it wants to... oh, that's kind of ass. I don't want that Joker. I mean, it's free, so I'll take it and then, like, sell it or whatever, but... anything that it says as part of its commentary, if it has any commentary to offer, it is, like, framed through... like, oh, being a good soldier and shit like that. Very Mussolini-pilled, you know, Mussolini smiling up from hell. Upside down, of course, at every Call of Duty game. He loves him some good soldier propaganda.
I'll give you the tour.
Sure, I could use some planet cards, yeah. Sure, I will level up 1 pair. And I do not care about a junk hand.
Joker, we're bringing Mitchell over to R&D. Get the sim prep for another run. You got it, boss.
Okie dokie. Ooh, big idea.
What
Odd
you're
number
seeing
cards.
is advanced warfare.
Whoa, he said the thing! He said advanced warfare! Roll the credits.
Atlas has the single largest standing military in the world, but we answer to no country.
Sus. Alright, this is where the interesting stuff begins.
Unlike the government, we don't keep secrets of our capabilities. We don't sell policy, we sell power. We are a superpower for hire.
So yeah, that's where I started to remember, wait, hold on, this was actually kind of interesting. The company that Jonathan Irons is the CEO of is literally the military-industrial complex. He is John Military-Industrial Complex, you know? And the whole game, well, you know, spoilers, he's the bad guy. These guys are the bad guy. It's like, oh yeah, this fucking amorphous, you know, set of corporate interests that only answers to the CEO and its fucking shareholders, literally has a standing military with which it uses the force that a state would otherwise be using to impose its will. And what is that will guided by? The profit motive. Already makes it the most interesting Call of Duty game probably out of the bunch, with the exception, like, with maybe a couple, like 1 or 2 exceptions. The only one I can think of maybe being, like, World at War at some points. So already, they might be cooking. Freeing becomes negative. Fuck it, I'll risk it for the biscuit. And you actually in the game, before it's revealed, like, oh shit, they're actually evil. You work as like they call it like a rescue force, but you're a PMC, you're a private military contractor, which is a thing that exists in the real world. In fact, there are several contractors and like consultant companies or whatever the fuck that look remarkably similar to Atlas. BlackRock comes to mind. Well, maybe not BlackRock. What was it? Blackwater? Something like that. There are a lot of mercenary companies that have their fingers in many pies, and you know, have insofar as like troops on the ground, but then also in terms of investments and stuff like that. You know, and you can imagine what a standing private military would get up to if they're chasing profits and not much else. Ooh. I want to get a
Power isn't just about the ability to destroy. Atlas has built infrastructures in places like Korea, Sierra Leone, Nigeria. We do in a few years what it takes governments decades to accomplish.
And this is part of the power that he sells. This is, in fact, this is a part of modern like neo-colonialism, is that through investing in regions, like, in fact, this is actually a lot better than the neo-colonialism that exists today, insofar as like I don't know, ethical calculus or whatever. Through investing in a region and building up its infrastructure by way of private like capital, right? You now own that region. You now functionally own that country. One of the countries that Atlas Corporation invested in a lot was Nigeria. So as a result, imagine a company that invested boatloads of money into building infrastructure, roads, buildings, hospitals, schools, etc., etc., etc. Internet connectivity, all of that sort of stuff, all of the trappings of a modern developed country, the development of which is owed to a single company. That company now effectively owns that country, because that country would probably like crumble without that development, you know? And that is what he means when he says, like, we sell power. Yes, he has a lot of guys and guns, but there's also a lot of money in all of what they do. It basically makes this a stateless state, which is pretty interesting. You know, I feel like that's actually a concept that needs to be explored more in media. In fact, the only games that I've seen actually comment on this are Metal Gear and then this game. You know, because Metal Gear has like the Patriots and stuff. That's a much more direct critique of like military industrial complex capital.
In fact, the truth is, we're often more effective than the governments that hire us, as my son found out the hard way.
Yeah, this stuff is very heavy-handed when he's thinking about, like, he's talking about his son. The gist of it is like, the sort of plot of the game is that basically, like, oh, he became the bad guy because he, like, went crazy or something after his son died, which ultimately I think is actually a little bit lazy. And I think a little bit out of step with what they're building with this sequence right here and with some of the other stuff that Jonathan Irons does and says. He, by virtue of being the CEO of Atlas, being like a corporate executive, he was the bad guy from the start. You know, I wish they had committed to that a little harder. It would have been interesting, I think.
Mitchell, I know you're not in this for the money.
True.
Remind me a lot of Will in that way. Now go get that arm fixed.
You're kind, fair. I want to try to get 3 of a kind, so I'm going to discard some stuff. Oh, well, I got a flush.
Looks like we have an operator on our hands.
Right?
He's getting
Yeah.
He's ready for some real work. Good job, son.
Okay, consolation. Press discard by accident. I pressed discard again? I'm a moron. Holy shit. I'm starting this run over. I can't think.
Let's show them what Atlas can do. The KVA been
Discard is on the right?
It's time to send them a message.
I swear I clicked what was on the left. Yeah, play hand. What the fuck? Okay.
Entire region around. So take them alive. No pressure. Pressure? Whoa, pressure.
Fruit.
Good luck.
All right. So the first mission he sends you on is rescuing the Nigerian prime minister. There's a reason I use Nigeria as an example because they mention that in the game. Ooh. I'll take 3 of a kind, sure. This will be relevant later. What happened to the guy we pulled out of the drink? You rescue a like a government worker or whatever from drowning on that mission.
Irons took that with him. It's fine by me. Badass, man. Fucking badass.
As you were, son. As you were.
So,
Soup?
we can help you with
Rank. Oh, wait, I do have a straight. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I'll do you one better.
Oh, dude, that's crazy. He's one of the boys.
There's an old military saying. You treat your men like you would your own beloved sons, and they'll follow you into the deepest valley.
Where's that picture of Mussolini? There's like a, you know, there's that AI filter or whatever that like takes a photo of a person and it just puts a smile on them. I need a photo of Mussolini with that filter so he's like smiling to have basically at all times whenever I'm when I'm talking about this this video. In fact, future me in the editing, if you can find that, just put that on screen right now, like with a nice sound effect, and just have it like in the corner there. Great, cool, thank you.
I lost my son, and it taught me the importance of seizing the moment, of saying what needs to be said when you have the chance.
Alternatively, Lenin or Stalin could work too, because they were like, haha, military socialism, haha. Ooh. I guess I want to turn literally everything into spades or clubs. Sure.
You gentlemen did a hell of a job out there. Lagos has opened up fantastic opportunities for Atlas. And for that, I'm grateful. To you, gentlemen.
Democracy? Democracy. Democracy.
This is where things get really interesting. Oh, now it's showing my mouse. What's going on? This is where things get really interesting, because it's focusing more on Jonathan Irons and his relation to the current political order.
What these people need, hell, it's not even what they want. America's been running around the globe trying to install democracies in nation after nation for a century, and it hasn't worked one time. Now, why do you think that is?
He might be cooking. He might be cooking. Actually, I think I need to turn down the game audio a little bit. Audio. There we go. He might be cooking. This is true. Well,
these countries don't have the most basic building blocks necessary to support a democracy. Little things like we ought to be tolerant of those who disagree with us.
Okay, this
we
is...
ought to be tolerant of those who worship a different god than us, or that a journalist ought to be able to disagree with a fucking president. And you think you can walk into this country based on fundamentalist religious principles, drop a couple of bombs, topple a dictator, and start a democracy? Give me a break.
Okay. That seems like a good place to sort of end that that spiel by Jonathan Irons. He's cooking a little bit. Now it obviously in towards the end there it trends into like just kind of garden variety like anti-Middle East racism or whatever when he's like, oh, these people are uncivilized or whatever. But it is interesting that he mentioned like, look, the reason you can't just kind of start a democracy from the top down like that, just roll in there, overthrow a dictator. I mean, you know, plenty of dictators to be overthrown there, and like start up a democracy, is because that's not how it works. What he's talking about a lot of countries lacking the fundamental building blocks to support a well-developed democratic system is true. There is a truth to that. And in fact, if you are looking at this through a materialist lens, then it makes perfect sense, because the only way that a developed world style democracy can exist is if material conditions are stable enough for it to exist, right? Liberal democracies live and die basically by the comfort of the ruling class functionally. And when a region is in constant turmoil and instability, those religious fundamentalist beliefs and the sort of the groundwork for militancy, the like, you know, basically for terrorism, is always going to be abundant. You can't shoot guns your way out of a you know, like a extremely weak, nominally sort of liberal technocratic government that's functionally subservient to a bunch of disparate, like, non-state militant and terror groups in your country, right? What he is doing, as much as what he is doing is just about profit seeking, the nation building that he mentioned earlier about investing in infrastructure is the answer to his critique of America's imperialistic behavior in, like, just invading countries in the Middle East and whatever. If you invest in those countries to stabilize them and to increase the standard of living, to address some of the underlying root causes of those religious fundamentalist beliefs, of that, like, ideological extremism, if you cut out the perceived need for that by way of ameliorating the conditions of life in any given country, then you get the you get an environment where now a much more, like, democratic society is possible. This is the source of all of the American failures abroad in the 20th and 21st century with respect to countries like Iraq, like Afghanistan, like Yemen, you know, whatever country America has bombed and that hasn't been able to bounce back, that is why. Because America only thought about bombing what it perceived to be the bad guys rather than investing money, basically no strings attached, which of course the capital class is allergic to. You know, the capital class couldn't ever do that in a million years. There's still technically a way to, like, engage in a capitalistic sort of nation building, but in a world of neoliberalism, which I guess, you know, this is supposed to be like an extension of the modern world because it's an advanced warfare. It's meant to be like, okay, we're sort of extrapolating onward into the 21st century. In the political climate that Jonathan Irons is critiquing, that kind of nation building is no longer possible. And he is going to fall prey to that because he's going to become basically just the same military occupation that the United States is/was.
People don't want freedom. They want rules, boundaries, protections from invaders and from themselves.
As fucked up as it is, this is true. Median voter theorem remains undefeated. Democracy basically means of the people, the government of the people, for the people, by the people. But the people are retarded. This is true. If people will fucking sell their soul up the river, including their human rights, if it means that, like, I don't know, they get promised some nice, like, oh, security, fucking first galactic empire or some shit, you know what I mean?
People need a leader who can both provide the constraints and the support to keep chaos at bay.
This is Peronist theory. My man is channeling Juan Perón. You know, trying to become the... Basically, he's saying the people need a strong man to follow. which is textbook CEO behavior.
And they'll follow.
Which is actually contradictory to what he said earlier about you know, toppling a dictator and whatever. I guess what this ends up being is him looping back to like, no, the people need the dictator actually, but it is very, very close, and I think meant to gesture at how you would actually address a lot of the problems that has been caused by American interventionism and well interventionism by the developed world into the developing world that so frequently happens.
And that's where I come in.
I don't want that. Bleh.
There are some days we never forget.
Oh, this part is actually... I only got notified from Discord, funnily enough. Go Tron, welcome to chat. I don't know why notifications do that. Notifications are very silly. Very funny, it's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be, like, very self-serious, because that's the kind of game that Call of Duty is. But I did find it very humorous that this was like, oh, haha, post 9/11 ad. Because it still is very much in a post 9/11 support the troops kind of framing, which I guess is all that Call of Duty is really capable of, you know? But in-game there was like a terrorist attack on a bunch of power plants and stuff.
Moments burned into
And so then this ad exists.
Where were you the day everything changed? 4
Everything
years ago,
changed.
one man tried to destroy our way of life. One man tried to...
Complete with the destroy our way of life talking points. I don't remember much. Isn't that the game with the endoskeletons? Yes, you have... this is the game where you have like an exosuit. And you have like power-ups like, oh, reload faster, or, you know, you get a jump boost or whatever. This was the first game that did that in the Call of Duty series.
Felt like we could never find our way back. But we did. Together.
The only part I remember of the story is that guy's voice. Yeah, who is it? Fucking Jonathan Irons, Kevin Spacey. That's what I was, that's what I'm commenting on here with this video, is that this is actually... It's actually very interesting to me that they took this game actually in an approaching anti-capitalist direction, because the big giant corporation that basically is the military-industrial complex is the bad guy. You know? Yeah.
When you were vulnerable, we gave you our strength.
I'll use that.
When you were sick, we delivered you the cure. When there was chaos, we brought you order. Stability. Safety. A chance to start again. Who are we? We're the way forward.
The way forward? I didn't know bro was a Democrat. I'll stop.
It's a single source. Has the intel been verified?
The intel is
Give me
good.
that.
Hades is meeting with his financial backers in Santorini 24 hours from now.
Mr. Irons, the protocols for mounting an assault...
This man is responsible for 50,000 deaths, General. We are going in.
An operation on foreign sovereign soil, it would be an act of...
Found a video on one time where it says people and their ideology and they don't think anything will happen because they're that powerful. They may have been cooking in that video.
Without congressional approval.
Atlas is an internationally registered private company. We don't need Congress.
I'm at capital S. I don't know what that means. I do appreciate the musical sting there when he's like, oh, we're a fucking private corporation, dog. Government approval? What's that shit? We can just go commit war crimes and we're not like accountable to any government. That's you know, great, really great, like you know, yeah, we're definitely not the bad guys right now. And of course in game they're trying to sell you on you still being the good guys, because you're going to like get a bad terrorist man or whatever the fuck. What? I don't want these cards. Oh wait, actually, I can do that. Most powerful people are not in government, and funny enough, yeah, I mean that's what I find this game so interesting for, is that like, oh yeah, maybe we can be critical of power if we distance that enough from the US military. So they basically created the military industrial complex, the company, and then made Kevin Spacey the CEO. He is John Military Industrial Complex right now.
Gentlemen, are we operational?
We're at the ready, sir. You're the trigger.
Ooh, let's do that and get a lot of bonuses.
On whose authority?
On my authority!
That line goes hard. Although it is a little bit ironic. It's kind of funny. The greatest illusion of the state is that they have all the power. Oh yeah, the state doesn't have all the power. It like they have as much power basically as corporations allow them to have, and like how they allow them to exercise it and stuff. It is very interesting on that note that the confrontation between governments that you see Kevin Spacey doing is right now with the US government, like US military industrial complex or whatever. And then I think later there's a scene with him at the UN when the whole thing about the US military and a lot of the critiques that people have of it is just that the military exists to enforce abroad the interests of private capital. Like that's the reason that the military does what it does, right? Like even if the US military didn't directly invade Iraq for oil in 2003, although we did in the 1990s, the reason we did that was to extend the American geopolitical hegemony, or to maintain it in such a way that would satisfy the military industrial complex, because it means that they still get to do business, and in a way that means that our partners still have like a regional hegemony over the Middle East, which does have to do with oil, because, you know, the capital class in the Middle East particularly really loves their oil. I get some of these. So, you know, kind of ironic that the military is having any sort of confrontational relationship with Jonathan Irons in this game, when the entire reason the military exists is to serve the interests of people like Jonathan Irons, who are like CEOs and shareholders and shit.
That's our ticket inside. Bravo moving.
I don't need to remind.
I think it's to make the military look good in a weird way. It is. I mentioned earlier that basically every Call of Duty game is just military industrial complex propaganda. And this game is an interesting mishmash of contradictions that happens when you are military industrial complex propaganda that tries to also make the military industrial complex the bad guy, right? Atlas, the military industrial complex, is the bad guy in this game, but the good guy is the US military, aka the military industrial complex. You know? It's like trying to be critical of the military in as safe a way as it can. And of course, I've mentioned this earlier, it's not Metal Gear, you know? It's not, we're not going fully Kojima pilled with this game, but it was it was pretty cool. It was good as far as Call of Duty games go. Imagine if Armstrong was in a Call of Duty game. That would be a weird story. God, I would fucking pay to see that shit. I don't even need to play it. I just need to see it.
Remind you how important this mission is. Hades is responsible for the nuclear attack.
Santa's drawn face down. Oh, this one's a bitch.
We bring down the whole KVA network. There's no room for error. Get it done.
At last, time ran out.
Okay, he's saying like go get this terrorist guy, and that's probably TOS. I can't show that because those blood. He bleeded his blood. Stop that. Thank you. Can I? But oh, okay. Well, I'm literally gonna go frame by frame.
Less international. The private.
They recently spoke with Jonathan Atlas, they said. Or Jonathan Atlas, yes. No, Jonathan Irons. Okay, thank you. Is it funny that military propaganda is similar to vigilante propaganda? Not really. I mean, it is funny in a, I guess, in a sort of way, but really it makes a lot of sense because military propaganda is, well, propaganda for the military. Vigilante propaganda is propaganda for the cops, you know? Yeah, I'll just play that. You know, and the military and the cops serve a very similar purpose. The cops are the enforcement arm of capital domestically. So in America, the cops are tasked with safeguarding and enforcing the interests of capital. That's why the cops are always there to break strikes. And then abroad, the military serves that function. That's why the military usually gets involved in areas that are of great interest to American businesses. That's why the CIA does coups in certain countries, and they work very closely with the military and stuff. They are two branches of the same tree, in a way. You know? That's why you see, like, in a lot of comic books or stories about vigilantes where they're the good guy and whatever, you see them working with the police.
For hunting down and killing Hades. Congratulations, you've achieved what
And
no
$5.
government was able to.
Thank you, Wendy, but the real heroes of the day are the men and women of Atlas. I couldn't be prouder of what they accomplished out there this week.
There are rumors that the UN will offer you a seat.
At that point, are you even a vigilante? No, not really. You know, that's one of those contradictions where they try to make, you know, I guess they kind of try to make vigilantes look good, but in so doing, they sort of make them further from what a vigilante fundamentally is, which is somebody who has taken the law into their own hands. That is to say, out of the hands of the police and the ordinary justice system. The police in real life fucking hate vigilantes because vigilantes usually are, well, even more unruly than the police, which is a fucking crazy thing for me to say, but it is true. But then also their interests are not first and foremost also the interests of private capital. So that runs into some friction whenever there's somebody else going around beating up somebody with a stick, because they might actually by chance beat up somebody with a stick who's responsible for embezzling money from Social Security, where the police's job in that instance is to look the other way so that person can like get a raise in peace and whatever. I can't imagine that possibly being more unruly. It's basically like, not all cops are mentally ill at any given moment, but in order to be a vigilante, you have to be like almost more mentally ill than the average cop, if that makes sense. Did you see that America can easily get free healthcare now? Are you is this like a super early April Fool's thing? I did not see this. What is going on? Did fucking hell freeze over? What is this? Yeah, what is this? Free healthcare in America? I'm skeptical. Call me yeah, like a Luigi. That's so true. Ooh. I don't want to go for the 2 pairs. I guess. Wait, I have a flush. Nice. Denmark offered to buy the US and give you free healthcare. Also, they said they would fix education funding. Oh, okay. Nice meme. Nice meme. Thank you, Denmark. Very cool. Unfortunately, that isn't how it works. And I say unfortunately because, you know, that would be nice. Love that. But yeah. My family, I'm the leftist. My dads are right-wingers. And my older brother is gone. That's the most median voter person I've ever met. And my younger brother is incoherent. Yeah. Sounds like, that sounds like a nightmare to navigate, I'll be real. My condolences to your brain cells every now and again. I want to get one of these.
Seat on the Security Council.
Okay. being offered a seat on the Security Council. The Security Council as wait. I'll skip this. Also said they would send Trump into North Korea or Russia. Nice meme. I appreciate that. You know, we do a little bit of trolling here. The Security Council, as much as people meme about the UN being powerless, which I will, you know, yeah, it kind of is. Actually, more than kind of, like, it really is. The UN Security Council actually does have authority. It's just deadlocked, like, almost all the time, because the Security Council is something that explicitly deals with geopolitical, military interests. Samhaman HD, welcome to chat. Campism is cringe. So you are cringe, but that is not you know, the worst crime that you can commit. Welcome to chat. Because the Security Council has like Russia and China and the US as permanent members, I think, and all three of those countries have different interests. It is impossible for the Security Council to be reliably a herald of stability, because stability is like contrary to the nature of nations that have geopolitical interests, right? Like, if something is good for America's interests, America will vote for it. But since China and Russia might have different interests than America, they would vote against it. Or if something was good for Russia and wouldn't be good for America, America would vote against it. And since one vote is all you need to tank something in the Security Council, everything gets tanked all the time. Especially when it's like fucking resolution about like the Middle East, in which case that is where interests are very, very pronounced. I'm gonna try to go for a full house, I think. Yeah. And I discarded a king, so I get a bonus. Yay, full house. What's the person yelling about? I think it's a Russian bot, but all they said is yay Russia and I hate the US, which isn't that offensive or anything, so sure, I'll let them stay for now.
Can a life in politics be far behind?
Well, I like to get things done, so no. But look at what we've done in New Baghdad.
Well, you know, true. The Communist Party is all lies. No one in Russia believes in communism. Citation needed. I don't know if Russia still has a Communist Party, right? I think. Also, I'm sure there are some communists in Russia and stuff. Even if it's like just they call themselves communists but are really like Russian revanchists or something. Yeah. Ooh, I really like this card. That CEO reminds me of someone in real life. Can't put my finger on it. I wonder who could this CEO with a like a superiority complex and potentially a disregard for human rights. Propaganda of communism is illegal in Russia. That's kind of fucked up. Communist propaganda actually isn't illegal in America because we have freedom of speech here, and propaganda is a form of speech. It's a form of you know, expression. It's just that it's functionally like you will never see communist propaganda on TV because America is a capitalist country and stuff like that. But you will find plenty of communist propaganda on social media where every other person is a trans cat girl communist or something. Reminds me of a show in the MCU I watched a day ago where there's an assassin working with a Russian super soldier that bought state propaganda. Oh, no, I'm thinking of a movie. I don't know what show that is.
40 years ago.
But anyways, this is something that I wanted to mention. Sorry, I've gotten a little sidetracked from commenting on the video that I'm looking at right now. But what I wanted to mention that this journalist commits like the classic person is basically a Russian Captain America. Oh yeah, I know the character you're talking about. Just I don't think I know the show. This person, this journalist here, is committing a very grave error that most journalists will also commit. Like, I see this so much, that somehow CEOs are not involved in politics. First of all, CEOs donate a shit ton of money to political candidates all the time. Virtually every CEO in America supported Donald Trump's campaign for president. You know, like every corporate executive under the sun, they donate money to Republicans and stuff like that. They also donate money to Democrats, but they prefer Republicans. So in that way, CEOs are always like involved in politics and stuff like that. Oh, I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with this for now. No, this will scale better in the future. But then also, because Jonathan Irons has power, that makes him inherently political. That makes his job inherently political. He is the head of a gigantic fucking corporation whose job it is to, well, dole out military force and infrastructure funding. He's, like I said earlier, Atlas Corporation is literally a state without a state. You know, his job, he is the most political like person on the planet because of how much power he has. You know, it's like saying that the presidency isn't political or something. Like you're just smoking some shit. you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Was this a straight? Not gonna go for a straight. I will go for a full house though. And I didn't get one. 2 of diamonds. 6, 7, king. I have 3 diamonds now. I could go for a... Ah, there's a flush. Nice. Makes me laugh when people say that the right is for anti-rich people. Yeah, the entire ideology. Oh, oops. I'm silly. I didn't have 5. I had 4. What? Oh, I think I'm playing with a reduced hand size. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna try to actually. I'm gonna try to go for a. Well, I can't really go for anything. I think I'm kind of fucked at this point, to be honest. Yeah. The people that almost conquer the planet don't say they conquer the planet. Yeah. I might just win anyway with what I have. Oh, hey, it leveled up 1 pair. But yeah, all that to say, when she says like, "Oh, are you gonna consider a life in politics?" His life is already politics, because politics is the sort of is the ability to get other people to do what you want, I guess. Like politics is a relationship of power and wealth and like how resources get doled out. That is like, if you have power, then you are politically relevant. I bet he's smiling inside, even though he's a fictional character. Yeah, probably. I mean, this is supposed to be like, oh, it's kind of like a softball interview, you know?
The last 4 years have been huge for you. In the wake of the KBA attacks.
Or did you mean the other guy?
The world's biggest corporation. And you now preside over the world's largest standing military.
See, this is what I mean. Biggest corporation in the world, largest standing military in the world, and she's like, oh, are you ever going to get into politics? He already is.
So what's next for Jonathan Irons?
Ooh, give me that.
Did you tell anyone you were coming?
No. So what?
Scrambler will only buy us a few minutes.
Okay. No, I don't want that.
Sync to my card. I have to show you something.
Bloody hell's going on?
Just watch this. That's Irons with the technologist you saved.
That's the guy earlier when they said, what happened to that guy we pulled out of the water? That's him. This is Jonathan Irons.
The guy we pulled from the river.
He never made it back to Nigeria.
KVA are planning an attack. They told me everything.
What kind of attack?
Power plants all over the world. They want to compromise the security systems.
Where are they planning on hitting?
Seattle, Paris, Tokyo.
This is the in-game terrorist attack, by the way. You know, with that like obvious reference to like the post 9/11 era and whatever. This is the attack that they were referring to with all the like power plants and stuff that got hit. Ooh, I'll take 3 of a kind, sure. Why not? Wait, actually, if I discard this... Whee! Yay. I'm gonna use that.
Thousands will die.
He's saying that, like, this guy is warning him of those terrorist attacks.
We have to tell someone.
We have to tell everyone. It's okay, it's all right. I'm gonna take care of this right now.
That's TOS. Okay, future me, fucking blur that in the editing. And then they're like, oh my god, is it fake? Is it real? Like, how do you know? And then in comes the Atlas security people.
We saw it. We saw everything.
You saw what?
You knew about the attacks. All those innocent
You saw
people.
a forged recording from a terrorist.
Definitely the words of somebody who didn't, like, do that. The thing unrealistic about the story is him saying, haha, I'm evil at one point. Yeah, it really is. Everything up to this point is pretty realistic. Obviously, that like, or not pretty realistic, but like more realistic than your average Call of Duty game. Again, not a high bar to clear, but it's interesting that this game, like, cleared it. Him, like, shooting the technologist is a much more direct and literal version of what would probably otherwise happen, which is like, oh yeah, sign this NDA and like we'll sue you to fucking oblivion and back if you ever discuss this. But also we knew that this was going to happen. We're going to let it happen because, you know, it would be cool to profit off of it, I think. You know, and I'll take that. But yeah, in real life, a lot of corporations have already had moments like this where it's like, you know, we could do something to improve the conditions of life, but not doing that would get us a lot more money. This is actually part of what a lot of people will refer to as enshittification, where you could make life better, but if you make life worse or allow it to get worse or allow it to stay shitty, you would get a lot more money. So you could, you know, you could fix the problem, but that wouldn't get you as much money as allowing the problem to persist or even, like, exacerbating it. Yeah, you don't even need to kill somebody. Like, money would have been enough to get somebody to shut up. You know, no shooting the technologist in the head required.
You're insane. You're a monster.
Have you found those people that say they criticize capitalism and then they say I'm not criticizing capitalism and they believe it? Yeah, it is very interesting to me. This game might be even a walking embodiment of that contradiction, where a lot of, like, some of what they say can really only be taken as a direct, straightforward critique of how capitalism operates. Like, critique of capitalism. Yeah, companies are fucking greedy bastards that will let people suffer and die if it makes them a quick buck. That is a critique of capitalism. But then they say, I'm not criticizing capitalism, and they believe that because you know, they don't really understand the implications of, well, they understand some of the implications of what they're saying, but it's like they get activated when they hear a certain buzzword or whatever it is, right? And so it exists on completely different planes for them.
You could have had everything.
And it's a little bit like this
Hold
game.
them here until the reporters leave. Gideon.
You know, people make fun of it. People being brainwashed by media is so true. It absolutely is. You know, because people say like, oh, the media is brainwashing you. And that's, you know, sometimes that can sound very conspiratorial, but really what's happening in the most simple terms is that the media has their own interests, right? Like they have a set of distinct interests because they're part of the propertied class. And so they won't really, they're not willing to air information that would endanger those interests. And so as a result of basically all media having a certain shared bias, people are only exposed to a certain narrative. And even if the narrative is like, doesn't make that much sense or is like blatantly anti-human, people will believe it because there's no other narrative, right? Like that's the only thing that they are told about. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's a spade. I heard someone say this, and this might be true, where people might be for radical nonsensical. Can't believe I even said that. Yeah, people love being radicals, but like most people don't have coherent worldviews. Okay, so these are all face cards.
He's made his decision.
I'm gonna get rid of these and try to get some more spades. Okay, so he's like developing a bioweapon. Because again, they have to have that like, haha, I'm the bad guy, mustache twirl moment. Like they have to do that. I could play two pairs. Nah, but I think I want to try to get something a little bit better. Aha! A straight. Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even though this would be stupid, imagine a Call of Duty game about January 6th. I mean, they are making a Call of Duty game about 9/11, so it's not that stupid. I mean, you know, January 6th might be actually kind of hard to make a Call of Duty game about, because Call of Duty relies on the shooty stuff, and not a whole lot of that happened on January 6th. Like, most of the people there weren't shooting guns. Like, there were violent rioters and such, and insurrectionists, and a couple people died, but it's not, like, enough to make a Call of Duty game. You'd have to, like, create a fictitious version of that to make it material for a Call of Duty game. But are Call of Duty games actually accurate? You know what? True. Maybe they could make a Black Ops game about that or some shit. Be like, oh, the secret plot behind January 6th. And have it be some unrelated bullshit that, like, is very, very conspiracy laden.
Congresses and parliaments long since passed. Congresses and
all right, so he's gonna speak. He's speaking here. This part is of interest because he's about to give a speech at the UN, I think, if I remember the game right. Just give me that.
Everybody thinks their ideas are right. That's why the people you call terrorists call themselves freedom fighters.
This is true, by the way. The whole one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. I mean, it is, like, you can be both a freedom fighter and a terrorist at the same time. Like, the two things are not mutually exclusive. It's a matter of framing, as I guess that gets at. This UN speech, if I remember correctly, was the stupidest part of the story. We'll see. I think there might have been a stupider part of the story, but yeah, maybe. We'll see. I don't remember the whole speech. Imagine explaining the term terrorism to a median voter. I can't, because I don't think I would, like, there's a level of mental incapacitation that I'm not, like, capable of imagining, and I think the median voter surpasses that. Like, the median voter is actually too stupid for me to imagine the concept of me explaining that to them. Like, I'm not capable of imagining a person dumb enough to the point where I know the median voter is, if that makes sense.
The fundamentalists think they're right. The capitalists think they're right.
Oh, he said capitalists. Okay.
The communists think they're right.
and no one will ever convince anyone of anything.
There is a truth to this to an extent that a lot of ideology, like ideology goes a really fucking long way in convincing someone of whether they're right or not. Like you could provide the most convincing arguments possible to an ideologue and it wouldn't matter. So he has like, there's a kernel of truth to some of the stuff that he's saying.
These honorable men lecturing the world from the floors of Congresses and parliaments whose time has long since passed refuse to admit, publicly at least, ideas don't determine who's right. Power determines who's right.
This was one of the most interesting parts to me, because this is what sold me as like, okay, so Jonathan Irons is a materialist. The idealist framework holds that like whoever is right, at least in the eyes of the cameras or in the eyes of, you know, whoever is listening, is determined by whose ideas are the best. But rather, that's not actually true. You'll notice like socialists are objectively correct about like the course of capitalism because the materialist framework, like when you apply a materialist framework to how capitalism operates, what the interests dictating the flow of society are, you know, how all of that stuff works, you find that there are certain contradictions in a capitalist system where like, oh, you know, you have the interests of society at large, which are that people's lives generally get better and improve. But then the interests of the capital class, the people who own all the stuff and all the productive processes and whatever, people with giant fucking portfolios, those interests almost always contradict those other interests, the interests of humanity at large. Like that is a fact of the world. But you will not find everybody agreeing with that. Not because it's not correct, but rather because whether something is correct or not does very little to convince people of whether it's correct. Because the narrative is that, oh, well, of course, when CEOs and big companies do well, we all do well, like in the media. Increasingly, people are skeptical of this narrative. But mind you, it held for a long time because that was the only narrative on the airwaves. People had the power, companies had the power to perpetuate that narrative. Jonathan Irons is right when he says power determines who's right. Ideologies do not win based on the merit of their ideas insofar as whether they're correct. They win based on the power that they have to convince people, because that material power affects directly whether or not they will be able to like enact their ideological platform. Does that make sense? The fascists in Germany did not take power because they were right. They took power because they had the support of other powerful groups. The communists in Russia did not succeed in the revolution because they were right. They were right, I believe, but that's not why they succeeded in the Russian Revolution. They succeeded because they had a very broad base of support. They had power from below, enough power to overthrow the Tsar. That is the basis of politics. I find it funny how everything that talks about World War II skips over how Nazis took over Germany. That's not an accident. The reason that that's not discussed very frequently is because it brings up some very inconvenient facts about a liberal world order or a liberal sort of economic order, because liberalism paves the way for Nazism. And a lot of liberals really, really don't want to confront that. Systems that are liberal, even more so. Liberal systems will do anything to avoid confronting where that leads, because that could potentially endanger the interests of, well, the system itself or those who are propertied in that system, right? I hate the concept that I ignore it. It's not true. I didn't say you did. I'm saying that the reason that like how the Nazis took over Germany is not frequently talked about, first of all, is because it's not very well known, and secondly is because the reason it isn't well known is because it'd be extremely inconvenient to a liberal status quo. Oh, okay, that was meant for somebody else. Okay, I got you. It's very inconvenient for it to be discussed because a liberal status quo sort of decays into fascism, and people usually grow pretty discontent under fascism. Does that make sense? You know? For those people that have that belief. Yeah.
the power. So I'm right.
You know, it's funny in a way. Whoever wrote this game, this is very reminiscent of Stalin. Stalin was himself a materialist. He like very well read and understood the materialist framework, but he depersonalized himself in a way where he like conceptualized himself as a historical force more so than anything. It enabled him to get away with some shit. Do you think the people who wrote this game tried to hide their ideology? No, I actually don't think so. I think something different is happening in the course of the writing of this game. What I think is happening really is that the ideology of the people writing this game is kind of incoherent, like a lot of people. But they wanted the game to be new and interesting and have a very different kind of villain. And to do that, and to do that, they sort of needed to branch out from what the stories usually were. You know, I don't think they're hiding their ideology so much as they're actually discovering it in real time. You know, they're touching on some things. They're trying to do something new. They're trying to get into the politics of Call of Duty. But like, you know, they're not like super aware of like well, you know what I mean. They're not super coherent and consistent in their ideological beliefs. That's how you get the like, oh, well, you know, military industrial complex is bad because Atlas Corporation, but also good because America or something like that. If the game came out in modern time, they'd call it woke. Oh, yeah, they probably would.
I am honored to be the first CEO of a private corporation to become a member of the United Nations Security Council. Unfortunately, my appearance today has been clouded by a flurry of speculation.
Sounds like the game that inspired Luigi. True. Maybe.
Would be capable of targeting specific ethnic groups. I want to address these allegations head on. Are we developing such a weapon? No, we are not. Because we've already developed it.
That line is really funny. Are we making this weapon? No, we already made it. What do I even go for? 79. You know what? I'm one away from a straight. Yeah. I got myself making that type of joke.
But with all due respect, the United Nations is a relic from a different time when nations were unique in their ability to solve the world's problems. But that just isn't the case anymore.
I think I see what you're saying about this speech. It seems like pretty
have outsourced the job
incoherent
to me.
Except that part. He's right about the world order having changed. The UN was actually built at a time when states had more power relative to the corporations that operated within them. However, Atlas, biggest corporation in the world, international corporation that everybody has outsourced their infrastructure to, he's now the CEO of Earth, basically. And he's like, you guys fucking sold all your infrastructure to me. Of course, I have all the power now. I own all the capital in the world. All that infrastructure that we built, that's ours. The countries where we have invested our money, remember I was mentioning earlier, you invest a ton of money in a country's infrastructure, that country is effectively yours. That's paid off. Is it funny that he might predict how useless the government might be in the future? Morbidly, yes.
I have sent people to die in your wars. So I feel uniquely qualified to tell you, your wars don't work. Which is why my priorities have changed. From profits to policy. Because politicians don't know how to solve problems.
This is bullshit, though. His priority is still profits. Like, that is not how this works. Can you imagine if someone said this in real life? No, because they absolutely would not need to. Again, this is part of this is kind of wacky because it imagines a much more confrontational relationship between corporations and nation states than actually exists.
I do. So let's be clear. I am here to solve the world's problems. And I believe the world's problems begin with you.
Classic Ancapistan moment. Javier Milei's strongest warrior right here. 2 pairs, sure. Why not? This is basically a much more... It's like... You know, I would say I hate to be condescending, but I mean, really, I only don't want to be condescending to the people who would be watching the video, because I want them to I want people to understand what I'm, like, getting at and what I'm saying. This is a very dumbed down and very, like, yeah, it feels like he's trying to convince the median voter that he's evil. And basically, this is that version of the relationship that really exists with corporations in the real world. You know, like... They want governments gone because they don't want to be regulated. They want to be able to do all of the controlling and military bullshit and like all of the you know, all of the war crimes that governments do. Corporations would love to get their hands on that shit because that could make them a lot of money. But governments often regulate corporations like, hey, don't dump literal shit in the river. And companies don't like that because oftentimes that will inhibit their ability to make money. Maybe not that regulation literally, but like maybe, I don't know, hey, make sure you're doing maintenance on your machines and like you got to check to make sure they're up to code every now and again. But like, but we don't want to because, you know, that's like not like literally the bottom of the barrel. He's like, no, I'm trying to hurt you. Why don't you understand? You forgot Elon Musk has power now. Yeah, just think of this like... this is almost like an Elon Musk fucking anime villain moment, except Kevin Spacey is way more charismatic and like, has a script to go off of and shit. And Elon Musk also doesn't have a military or anything of the sort. I guess I could play these 2 pairs. I don't know. Imagine Elon Musk in anime. He'd very much be, you know, the fucking mobster from season 5 of JoJo, from JoJo Golden Wind, the guy that's just extremely fat and in his cell all the time, and he like loves eating fruit or whatever. That's Elon Musk in an anime. If he was in an anime, he would be that guy. Do this.
The world is asking one question. Why did I attack the United States? The United States has had...
Yeah, so this is the big, hey guys, I'm the bad guy now, Lamau moment.
The world in a constant state of war for over 100
Social Story by Joe.
Time and again, we have seen the catastrophic
I think I'm gonna lose this round, I think.
Policy. These wars haven't led to resolution or peace. These wars have only led to more wars. The United States has set the agenda because they wielded the biggest stick. Well, no more. This is not the beginning of a war.
Is it sad how much convincing it takes for the median voter to understand something is bad? No, I mean, people have basically always been that way for all time. Like, people on average, you know, pretty dumb sometimes. It's just that there's a media environment that makes it very difficult. And when that changes, then the whole game changes, you know? Like, the fact that it is extremely hard to convince the median voter is not, like, the reason that you can't make political progress as a socialist, right? It's the fact that every media outlet fucking hates socialism because it's like, yeah, we should, you know, free stuff would be good, actually, you know, if we tax the rich in order to fund it, and also, like, don't let them fucking own everything always all the time, you know? It's because that narrative is heavily frowned upon. If that narrative were allowed, it would actually resonate with people a lot.
This is the end of all wars.
Bonus.
Citizens of New Baghdad.
I wish I could convince them that the evil cabal is just rich people. Yeah, it's kind of funny that, like, there's the like lizard person conspiracy or whatever. And that's so close to being real. It's just fucking uber wealthy dickheads that own everything. Wild card. Sure.
Hold strong. Victory is within
So now this is like, surprise, he's Hitler now.
if you are willing to fight for it. Failure is not...
This is where he goes Joker mode. Okay, this contains him shooting somebody, so I'm not gonna, like... not gonna stay on that for too long.
You.
Okay.
You rely too much on those things. The city is falling. It's over. What I have...
Where's the, there's a scene where he... Again, I'm probably gonna have to censor something because he, like, brandishes a gun. YouTube doesn't like that, so... Is there a term for Joker mode? Or is that actually the term when someone goes schizo in a story? I mean... I guess Joker mode's probably the best thing to term that. I don't know if there is a term for it. See that.
Started won't end with me. It's bigger than me, and it's certainly bigger than you.
About this, he is correct. Jonathan Irons is made to be the central bad guy as one person, but make no mistake, the actual, like, true real bad guy of the story is Atlas Corporation, which means yes, the conflict that is central to this Call of Duty game is bigger than Jonathan Irons. It's bigger than Mitchell. It is bigger than what was his name, Gideon. It's bigger than any person in this story. Because the conflict is a power struggle between the interests of capital, embodied by Atlas, basically the military-industrial complex, the company, and the state. For fucking once, those interests are not aligned. Which might honestly be the most unrealistic part about this game. I think I've commented on that before, that there would ever be a point where those two interests are out of step. I want to get something with that. I'm gonna throw away these cards. These ones. Yep. I'm close to getting it straight, so I'm gonna do that. Funny how much capitalism convinces people that power cannot concentrate. I mean, there is a logic to that, to those attempts, because you know, the best way to convince people of something like that, of like, I don't know, the moral acceptability or something of your system, like if it's a system where power is extremely hierarchical, is just to convince people that nuh-uh, basically, you know. Flush, yeah, okay.
You think I'm a monster?
Okay.
That's only because you don't have the conviction to do what's necessary.
Necessary? The attack on America? Unleashing Manticore? Killing thousands of innocent people?
I'm saving the world from itself. When there's no one left to challenge Atlas, there will be no more wars. There had to be sacrifices along
Many
the
such
way.
cases.
Yeah. Twisted fucks throughout history have used the same argument. I don't know who stopped the launch.
Typical movie bad guy moment. This is really dumb. But it's nearing the end of the game. Okay, yeah. Future me, get ready to fucking censor the part where he points a gun at you.
Down on top of you.
I could have killed you.
I'm gonna do this.
I could kill you now. But I won't. I'm not a monster.
This is still way more Joker mode than any fucking corpo executive is ever willing to be, ever. But it is a little bit more true to life that, like, even when their actions are responsible for, like, fucking millions of deaths, they'll be like, no, I'm not the bad guy. It's like, brother, yes you are. You literally are. And then, I think after this is the point where the whole cutscene happens, where you run the guy down and whatnot.
Mitchell, try to hit the release on your exo. Now mine.
I might lose at this point. Maybe not.
Working.
That keeps leveling up. Depends.
There's no time. If he gets away, this will all have been for nothing. Go. No! Don't let Irons get away!
Oh, I got it straight.
Hurry, Mitchell. Keep going.
No, that's high card. That's a straight. Okay. Okay, yeah. So then you run him down. The greater good argument, kind of. It's a very interesting. It's a different interpretation of like the greater good argument, where they argue basically like, yeah, I'm doing bad things, but that's only because I have to, and like if it's not me, it'll be somebody else or whatever. Shit like that. Why is the building exploding? This is the end of the game. At the end of this Call of Duty game, it's like, oh, here comes America to save the day. They invade like New Baghdad or whatever, and they blow up the Atlas company facility and whatever. That's why there's explosions happening, because, you know, it's like fighter jets flying around or whatever. Isn't that same argument from the Nazis? Yes, in fact, that was the critical part of the Nuremberg defense. The whole I was just following orders shtick, where they really, some of them really did believe I was just doing my job, and if it weren't, like, even though my job entailed me doing bad things, if it weren't me, somebody else would have come in and done those same things. You know? Even though those two things are true, neither of them contradict the another thing that is also true, that just because it's your job, and because somebody else would have done it in your stead, if it weren't you, doesn't mean you're not still ethically and morally responsible for the things that happen in the course of you doing your job, you know?
Not letting go, so you got...
So we got this little part where he severs his own arm, and then probably gonna have to censor that too. Bye-bye. Okay. End of Call of Duty video. There's a bit more time left in the in that video, but most of it isn't cutscenes so much as it's like random extras from in the game. Where like you can find these little tapes and stuff that have his voice on it, but I'm not as interested in those because they don't have like the same story relevant stuff, I think. Yeah, I'll go for the 2 pairs. No, wait, I want to go for the straight here, I think. Yeah. So, to recap that all, that is a Call of Duty game, and more importantly, a Call of Duty villain that I find to be very interesting. And why I find it to be very interesting is because it approaches a critique of capital that obviously no Call of Duty game is usually willing to approach. Namely that, you know, it like, basic as it is, the bad guy that you are fighting in the game is a giant corporation, you know? Like, that's what it is. You fight a giant corporation that presides over a giant standing military, you know, familiar framing for Call of Duty, military stuff. As usual, Mussolini smiling up from hell, where he is upside down. You know, I guess now is an okay time to remove the little Mussolini thing from the corner there, future me. But I think that game warrants a little bit of respect for me, just from it being willing to breach the concept of, oh yeah, corporations are the fucking scum of the earth because they will kill people or let people die for profit, you know? Which is a pretty contradictory thing to even imply, much less state openly, in something like a Call of Duty game. You know, where the whole core of the game is how morally righteous the military-industrial complex is, you know? Eight, 9, 10, Jack. 9, 10. No. I need a couple more. Straight. I shouldn't go for that. Watching show, there was a robot that killed Nazis. Nazis took a robot in their club. That's what would happen. You know, there's so much media saying how good rich people are. It's surprising how much the average person hates rich people. Oh yeah, and that's because that media is in large part not very effective at doing that. It is very hard to convince people that directly the class that makes your life miserable and like wretched are like, I don't know, morally righteous members of society and stuff. Let me just get rid of all these, see what happens. Okay, that's something. 2 pairs. I say Neil the future. It goes to the other thing from the earlier sentence. Oh, okay. Gotcha. 1 pair? Sure, I'll do that. See what that gets me. Yeah. Obviously, it's not like this doesn't even come close to rising to like fucking Metal Gear Solid levels. I think that kind of goes without saying. But nonetheless, I find that game really interesting for what it is. Why did I do that? I didn't mean to do that. Also, imagine if this gets me the victory. That'd be really funny. Okay, not quite. So I lose. Nothing to beat Metal Gear Solid at Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, like you can't really beat Metal Gear Solid at Metal Gear Solid, and this doesn't, granted, this doesn't really come close, but it is definitely above the mark for your average Call of Duty game, which I think is noteworthy in and of itself. I don't know. I guess, you know, what I want to end on, I wanted to highlight that, and I feel like maybe I got wrapped up between the game and the video, but is that Jonathan Irons as a character in that in that game throughout those cutscenes is shown to have an interestingly more materialist leaning worldview, where he is more familiar with what realpolitik is and how it prevents not necessarily how it prevents nation states from acting, because really he's the reason that happens, but how like an ideology propagates, right, like through power, and basically how he's basically a power merchant. Like, we do infrastructure, we do military, we do all of the things that a state does, but we are not a nation state. We are a borderless state. We're a corporation that operates for profit but provides all of the services that a state would provide, and I don't know, like, we have the best of the best working for us and whatever else. MCU What If show, it confirms that Marx is canon. Well, I would assume so, because in the MCU, the Soviet Union existed. And you can't really have the Soviet Union without figures like Marx to fuel like a socialist movement. You can't really have that without the kind of critique that Marx provided, even if it's not Marx by name. Yeah. Obviously, as we saw at various points, that Call of Duty game and Jonathan Irons still not super ideologically coherent because, again, since it's a Call of Duty game, it has to have its cake and eat it too. It has to, whatever else it does, it has to portray the American government as the good guys in a way. You know, it can't have America directly be the bad guy because it's all about, sort of Western geopolitical hegemony as expressed through the United States and the United States military-industrial complex. So when they are critiquing capitalism or critiquing the military-industrial complex, it can't be America. It has to be Atlas, a stateless, borderless corporation. Which basically every company is. Even if they don't do all of the things that Atlas does, every company in real life operates more or less the same way that Atlas does in game, with a pretty callous disregard for human life run by corporate bureaucrats who, view the world from high up in an office tower and who make decisions based solely on profit, even if it means that thousands upon thousands of people suffer and die for it. It's a very regular occurrence in everyday life, and I think the attempt is respectable. But again, because it's a Call of Duty game, it's like not super realistic. It's basically playing pretend. I guess, for anybody who is a gamer, maybe the one Call of Duty game that I would actually recommend checking out for the story is Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. That's the only really story-driven Call of Duty that I think is worth its salt. In terms of gameplay, not necessarily. I haven't played very many, if any, Call of Duty games. I think I played like Modern Warfare 2 once. But yeah, that was pretty cool, and I thought it was worth commenting on, because I think there are some things that are expressed there that would resonate with a lot of people who hold that same kind of, at some point, self-contradictory worldview, right? Even if, as we talked about at other points, even if people won't, people do not view capitalism negatively by name, you can point to a morally reprehensible thing that capitalism is responsible for. For example, the behavior of large corporations that, sell military power, or large corporations that tie countries on the end of a string with, infrastructure funding and basically plunge those countries into debt traps so that they can continue investing and stuff like that. You can point to that kind of behavior and people be like, oh yeah, that's bad and I hate that. And, and I think that's cool that there are a lot of people that hold that view enough so, and mainstream enough to be put in like a Call of Duty game. Just a little diamond in the rough, I suppose. Can you make them realize capitalism is bad with the Socratic method? Theoretically, sure. Socrates would be very proud of you for making the effort. But, again, it's about that, like, a lot of them are already there. It's just when you say the word capitalism as something that's bad, they don't usually want to go for it. A lot of people just straight up, like, part of what makes the median voter, a lot of people just straight up don't have the steam for something long enough where you're using the Socratic method to really, really interrogate the root of their beliefs. And a lot of people don't really understand the kind of root of their own beliefs in a logical sense. Most people operate from a morally intuitive belief system, which will reliably be incoherent. That's part of what makes the median voter, In The Boys, there's Stormfront. Ah, yes, that's right. Where she says basically they like my ideology and beliefs. They don't like the word Nazi. Yeah, and that's a lot of people for various different ideologies. The reason that she can say that and why she can sometimes be correct in saying that is because the way she presents Nazism is as a populist ideology that is critical of power. In their case, they just redirect that critique of power onto people who don't have any power. But they have to manufacture that narrative that, oh, these powerless people actually have all the power. And a lot of people will be sympathetic to people saying, yeah, corporations are greedy bastards who want to plunder your life and leave you fucking broken, would never give it a second thought because it gets them some money at the end of the quarter. that will resonate with people because, again, it is a critique of power that has made people's lives miserable. And with corporations, you don't need to deflect. There's nothing to deflect. You don't have to, like, try to make a really weird conspiratorial narrative to say, actually, it's the Jews, actually, it's the immigrants, whatever. Because, like, yeah, obviously this corporation with $1 million billion fucking dollars has a lot of power to make people's lives miserable. They have $1 million billion fucking dollars. Imagine what you could buy with that, you know? Funny thing about the stories, after she dies, the company makes a story where Homelander was against her. Oh, yeah, I remember what you're talking about. I think I've seen that. And that is pretty funny. But anyways, that's actually, that's about all the Steam that I have. Speaking of, you know, people not having a whole lot of Steam for stuff, I've been a busy boy the past few days, the past week. And that's about all the Steam I have for stream today. Hopefully my Balatro gameplay was not too insufferable for the fine people on YouTube and or twitch.tv/BolshevikY2K. That's me. But yeah, I think this is going to be a segment. And I will now find somebody to raid. Future me, you know, take it away in the editing. You have some censoring to do and some smiling Mussolini to edit into the corner. Thanks for watching, and support the channel if you would be so kind.